Okay. Hey guys, what's up, Kyle here. Wanted to talk about a discussion topic video. This is a topic that a lot of people have talked about at least over the last 2 to 3 years, and still a conversation piece that not only a lot of fans wonder, but even a lot of professional wrestling and analysis or wrestling reporters all pose the same question, and that is, who will be the next face of the WWE after John Cena? I think during this time, more than ever, it's more questionable than ever before. I would say that I can remember any time that I've watched, professional wrestling for many years as a kid growing up, since I was like 6 years old, watching professional wrestling. I've never seen it being so hard to find the next big thing, the next face of the WWE, like currently right now in this generation of wrestling, after John Cena. A lot of people keep putting out there who's going to be the next face. John Cena's worked in the WWE for about 10 years, pretty much. 7 or 8 out of those 10 years, he's been the face of the company. There's been some stuff being said that Vince McMahon, personally himself, is looking out, is scouting out, trying to search and trying to find to be that who can be that next face in the WWE. And I still see John Cena being the top guy in the company for at least another 2 to 3 years. But he is kind of almost reaching his peak. I mean, he's 35, so he's still young, but within the next 3 years, he'd be kind of like almost reaching the end of his course, pretty much per se. So I think, in my personal opinion, I think WWE is really struggling. It's because if you really look at the talent in the roster, it's just really not, the star power just really isn't there in the WWE roster. It's a bit lacking, and I think last night's Raw was evident of that. Last night's Raw, it just felt like half the roster was missing. We had a lot of rematches from SmackDown, which those matches were good on Raw the other night, but still, Raw just seemed kind of, Raw, the show as an entirety was alright yesterday, but it seemed kind of off a little bit, like there was some lackluster in the roster a bit. So with that being said, I just think that, over the last probably, say, 5 years, when WWE were constantly kept focusing on guys like Batista, Triple H, Undertaker, Edge, Randy Orton, and John Cena, I mean, the focus was mainly around those 6 guys. They really haven't built any stars, in my opinion. Now, I will give them credit. They over the last, I'd say, year or two, they have been building and trying to, build up some stars, like in a Cody Rhodes, Alberto Del Rio, Sheamus, CM Punk, Daniel Bryan. So they are trying to, but it's like at the point, it's like these stars should have been built and should have been made 3 or 4 years prior. It's kind of like WWE is doing all this stuff now at the last minute. I'm giving them credit. They are pushing these young stars and these young talents, but it's like they're kind of doing it at the last minute because it's like rush hour now, because Batista's gone, although it's rumored he may come back of whenever. Undertaker's pretty much at the end of his course. He only shows up at WrestleMania. Triple H is only going to show up on special occasions. Edge has retired. Randy Orton is suspended. So, it's like all they had now pretty much is John Cena, then after him a CM Punk. But so it's like now they're at that point now, it's like they're scrambling around and struggling. And I just think that if they would have kind of beefed up their mid-card division 4 or 5 years ago, why they focus on the 6 main eventers like Triple H and Cena and etc., it might not be too hard to find that next face right about now at this point in time in WWE. That's just my personal opinion on that. I think that if they would have kind of stayed loyal and stuck behind some of the guys that they've been sticking with over the last 5 years and just build that division up, it might not be too hard to find the next face, or potentially might have a clue of who may be the next face right now in WWE to take John Cena's spot one day. Yeah, so like I said, I've never seen that before in the company. You know, when Hogan left WWE years ago, you got Bret Hart. From Bret Hart, it was passed down to Shawn Michaels. From Michaels to Austin. From Austin to Rock. From Rock to, I guess you could say, Brock Lesnar to a certain extent. Brock Lesnar, Triple H, and now John Cena. So it's like, you know, it wasn't hard for the top guy of the company to make the transition and pass the torch to the next guy behind him. It was hard during those times, but it's like now it's harder than ever. A lot of people say, well, you know, CM Punk could be the new face of the WWE. I agree with that as well, but then a lot of people debate and say, well, Punk is only 2 to 3 years younger than John Cena. Well, here's my thought with this thing here. Being the face of the company doesn't always mean you have to be in your 20s. A lot of the top stars, a lot of the top faces, not even just WWE, but in the wrestling business, don't become faces and major breakout stars until they hit that early to pretty much mid-30-year mark. Now, does that mean that if they hit that mid-30-year mark that they're going to be the face of the company for like 10 or 20, 15 years? No, because then by then they'll be like entering to their late 40s, early 50s, and by then they'll be way too old to be the face. No. But for those first 4 to 5 years, they can absolutely be the face of the company while they're in their early to mid-30s during those 4 to 3 years. Austin was. Austin didn't get his big break until WrestleMania 14 or 15, going up against Shawn Michaels. And Austin was like, I think, 33 years old. Yeah, he was like 33 or 34. And Austin carried the company from 1998 until 2001. So he was the biggest star in WWE history, but he carried the company on his back for 4 years straight, and he was in his mid-30s. So I'm just saying, hypothetically speaking, if CM Punk was to become the next face of the WWE, I don't get the point of what's the difference in this age thing. I mean, the only person who's probably the face of the company at a pretty young age, I would say would have been The Rock. And The Rock was like, and even then, The Rock was like about like 28 or 29 when Austin was recovering from his injuries and Rock took his spot while Austin was on hiatus. Rock was like in his late 20s. That's like a rare exception. That's because WWE had like a rocket on The Rock's back since he first came into the business. So I don't get it with this age thing when it comes to that. But it doesn't matter to me, you know, if Punk becomes the number 1 face or not. You know, I think he's at a good spot being the number 2 guy in the overall company. And for me, even though he's not the face of the WWE like Cena is, for me, he's an alternative choice besides Cena. And on that note, one other thing I wanted to mention to you really quick was that CM Punk was at a Comic-Con convention this past weekend in Philadelphia, and he had hinted, or pretty much not hinted, but he actually mentioned a new WWE Championship design title belt. Now, according to his opinion, he said that he's got to look at the new WWE Championship belt, and it doesn't look any better than the current WWE Championship that is now currently being presented on television. But he says that he wants to be the first one to bring in this new championship belt and to present it. So I'm pretty excited about this. I think it's been long overdue that we need a new championship belt design. Get rid of that spinner belt. That belt still, to me, does not look good on anybody but John Cena. That is Cena's belt. But saying that all to say, I'm excited that it's going to be a new WWE Championship. Now, according to him, to Punk, he says it doesn't look any better than the current championship. It kind of makes me wonder, hoping that it's not like outlandish like the spinner belt is. But anything's better than the spinner belt. I'll give it a chance to see what it looks like. When you guys think that Punk may present, do you think Punk should present the new WWE Championship design? And when do you think he may do it? I think it may happen on the 1000th episode of Raw. Or it could very well happen next week on Vince McMahon's special 3 hours of Raw. But no, I probably said the 1000th edition episode of Raw, it might happen. But still, let me know what you guys think about who you guys may think may be the next face in in the WWE after John Cena, as well as the thoughts of a new WWE Championship title belt design, and CM Punk being the first person to bring in that new belt design. Leave your thoughts in the comment box below. Subscribe. Peace.